Good morning and welcome to our Sunday school class. We hope everyone had a great Sunday already. We're going to go ahead and just get into our lessons. We're still talking about the parables of Christ. And the one that we're going to talk about today is the two debtors. And you can find that in Luke chapter 7, verses 36 through 50.
Found it in Luke chapter 7.
Right? Well, it's looking at the different things. It's only, this parable is only in Luke.
Oh, okay.
It's the only book that it's in.
Luke has 18
Well,
unique parables.
Yes, I was gonna say Bill was looking up. I said how many parables are in the Bible, and so a lot of people had a lot of opinions about how many parables were in the Bible.
Yeah.
Over 100, some said over 250. Generous, I think.
Depends on what you consider a parable.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Because Old Testament, we looked at Old Testament parables and
Yeah.
Sure.
they weren't really.
But before
An
the
allegory
class, we're not
is-
doing anything. We're just sitting on our phones doing nothing.
An allegory is not a parable, I don't think.
No.
It depends on the context.
Yeah. But Luke has the most parables. What you say? It had 24. Luke has 24 parables, and then it has 18 unique parables in them. And looking at just a little list that I've been going by, you see a lot of Luke.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense. I mean, given the context in which he wrote the book.
Yeah.
He probably heard a lot more of the story side of things.
True.
Because people would remember the stories that Jesus told.
Yeah.
And the disciples wrote about the things that he did. Because that's what they were paying attention to.
Or he was there for a lot of the stories also. He could have been
That's true.
present for the stories, not necessarily for the healings.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you think he would have been being a physician.
That's true.
But a lot of the healings were in, what do we say, Matthew, Mark, and John. There were some in Luke, but
Yeah. That's interesting.
yeah, it is.
Okay. And one of the Pharisees desired him that he would eat with them. And he went into the Pharisee's house and sat down to meat. And behold, a woman in the city, which was a sinner, when she knew that Jesus sat at meat in the Pharisee's house, brought an alabaster box of ointment, and stood at his feet behind him,
But
weeping.
you know what? Hold on. Pause that.
Yeah.
The two debtors doesn't start until verse 41.
Okay.
Let me see.
I'll just read the context for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Important
No,
too.
just go ahead. Yeah.
And stood at his feet behind him weeping, and began to wash his feet with tears, and did wipe them with the hairs of her head, and kissed his feet, and anointed them with the ointment. Now when the Pharisee which had bidden him saw it, he spake within himself, saying, This man, if he were a prophet, would have known who and what manner of woman this is that toucheth him, for she is a sinner. And Jesus answering said unto him, Simon, I have somewhat to say unto thee. And he saith, Master, say on. Yeah. There was a certain creditor which had two debtors. The one owed 500 pence, and the other 50. And when they had nothing to pay, he frankly forgave them both. Tell me therefore, which of them will love him most? Simon answered and said, I suppose that he to whom he forgave most. And he said unto him, Thou hast rightly judged. And he turned to the woman and said unto Simon, Seest thou this woman? I entered into thine house. Thou gavest me no water for my feet, but she hath washed my feet with tears, and wiped them with the hairs of her head. Thou gavest me no kiss, but this woman, since the time I came in, hath not ceased to kiss my feet. My head with oil thou didst not anoint, but this woman hath anointed my feet with ointment. Wherefore I say unto thee, her sins, which are many, are forgiven, for she loved much. But to whom little is forgiven, the same loveth little. And he said unto her, Thy sins are forgiven. And they that sat at meat with him began to say within themselves, Who is this that forgiveth sins also? And he said to the woman, Thy faith hath saved thee. Go in peace.
There's a lot of content in there.
That ending part reminds me, verse 47, where it says, But to whom little is forgiven, the same loveth little. It reminds me of a picture I saw, and it's like a picture of Jesus, like a statue, and it's just going like that, and it was like, cool, Jesus, and then it said, it was like a joke, and it was like, if you don't sin, I died for nothing, or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, cool, Jesus, but that kind of reminded me of that, where it's just like, you have to sin a lot to love a lot.
Right. Okay, so as we've all known and talked about the Pharisees, who are supposed to be the holy men of God, but won't even sit at a table with the sinners.
Right, you can't be a true leader
And
religiously if you're, you know.
If you're not going to be, I mean, how do you win souls? Like, you know what I mean? How do you really win souls? You don't, like Jesus said, come to seek and to save that which was lost. If you're healed, you're not going to go to the doctor.
Right.
If you're saved, you're not going to, not saying that when you're saved you don't need Jesus, but what I'm saying is you're not considered a sinner then.
Right.
You already have Jesus.
Right.
So he came for those that were lost. Jesus, he sat and ate with sinners. They were in his presence and it changed them. And so the Pharisees, if you're in their presence and you're a sinner, you won't be there for very long. Because it was almost like blasphemy for them to be at a table sitting with sinners. And when reading this, the woman in the city, which was a sinner, didn't say what she did or anything like that. They just said that she was a sinner.
Usually when they refer to women in that
That's
context,
their,
because everyone's a sinner. So
But when they refer to women in that context a lot, and we're known who and what manner of woman this is.
Yeah.
So.
She could have been a harlot.
Yeah.
Or, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was looking at this, though, it was saying that only the men sat at the tables. It was just all men. No, back then. Okay,
yeah,
so back then.
Back then it was supposed to be like that, and it just was like that. But
right.
Totally different culture.
Yes.
I still know.
Yes. But the Pharisees, they were so high and mighty, quotes.
Yeah.
Not mighty in the eyes of God, really, because they were just. Can I just say they were arrogant?
Yeah, that's a good word.
I mean, they literally
were
in charge
hypocrites.
of the Jewish
Yes.
religious system.
Yes, they knew a lot about stuff, but they didn't practice a lot of the stuff that they knew.
They'd go around and announce when the other person was fasting.
Yes,
just to give themselves glory, not God.
Yes. Well, Jesus was a different person.
My brother is fasting. Look at him. He's so skinny.
Mm.
Oh, look at his pain. He's crying. He's fasting. Think of him. He's horrible. How dare you eat? My brother is dying. They do all that kind of stuff. So this
or
they giving offerings like Mr. Beast giving to charities, where he's just like, look at this, I gave $10 million to this charity. That's how they do it.
Okay, it's telling me that this is only in Luke, but isn't there? Okay, no, it does say it brought an alabaster. I was like, this is the alabaster box store.
Yes.
Okay, and so she came to Jesus, and in the Pharisee's house, by all means. In the Pharisee's house, and she anointed his feet. She washed his feet, kissed his feet, and washed it with her tears, with her hair. I mean, just thinking about all this, and just think about what the Pharisees were doing.
Right. What?
Yeah.
Hello.
Well, and then of course they said, when the Pharisees which had bidden him saw it, he spake within himself, saying, this man, if he were a prophet, would have known who and what manner of woman this is that toucheth him, for she is a sinner.
If he were a prophet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why did they say that?
Why'd you invite him to dinner?
If he wasn't.
To see if he was. He was like, who is this guy? So he invited him to dinner, and then he was just like, he was trying to decide whether he was a prophet or not.
Well,
no, I don't think that's it. I think he's like, oh, this Jesus guy, he's...
No,
he's got a lot of clout in his head.
Well, the Pharisee was, yeah.
Well, it
The
said one
fact
of the
that he was
Pharisees
sitting
desired
at-
him that he
with
would
a
eat
Phar-
with them.
Yeah, the fact that he was eating with a Pharisee meant that they were trying to figure out what was going on. He was trying to be like, okay, like how what's his Nicodemus, how he came to him in the middle of the night. It's the same kind of thing, just as soon as it's a bit more open, where you're just like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Is this really a thing? Because a lot of times you'll hear a lot about someone from another group of people and not know if it's true or not. Or you'll see, because you want to go outside of the bounds of what you hear all the time and find out from the person themselves. But I think he was trying to make it up in his own mind. And then when he saw that, he's like, well, if he was a prophet, would he really want somebody like that? Aren't prophets supposed to be pure and holy, right? Like they're supposed to be the ones, which I don't think he's ever heard of Elijah, but
I guess not.
I like that right after it and Jesus answering said unto him, it's like he heard it just as clearly as
Yes.
he said it out loud.
did.
Well, and then he said, Simon.
Name drop.
Yeah.
They didn't mention the name before that.
No, they did not. So
Is
is this Simon Peter he's talking
I don't know
to?
if I can say the name.
This is Simon Peter he's talking to.
No, it's a
It
different.
just says Simon.
It's a Pharisee.
It's a
Pharisee's name
Pharisee.
is
Well, of
Simon,
course his
right?
name has to be Simon.
Huh.
Yeah.
He says, Simon, I have somewhat to say unto thee. So here he goes. Well, if Jesus said that to me, I'm sorry, Lord.
The
sorry.
way that my heart was
Because,
pumping
right.
in my chest.
Yes. Yes.
That's the way you just like,
Right.
he was really a prophet, and then all of a sudden he just looks up at you and you're like,
Simon?
like
Right.
there are moments that you have sometimes where you wonder if somebody heard the thoughts in your head, like like when they react or whatever,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, they hear that, but like this was he actually did, and then he said that, and
Mhm.
he knew that he heard it, which that would convince you that you're a prophet more than just some lady giving you some Bath and Body Works on your feet,
True. So then that's when he goes into the story of the two debtors. There was a certain debtor which had two debtors. The one owed 500 pence and the other 50. When they had nothing to pay, he frankly forgave them both. Tell me therefore which of them will love him most. And he answered and said, I suppose that he to whom he forgave most. And he said unto them, Thou hast rightly judged. But here's the thing. Then he turned to the woman and said unto Simon, Seest thou this woman? I entered into thine house, thou gavest me no water for my feet, but hath washed them. But she hath washed my feet with tears, and wiped them with the hairs of her head. Thou gavest
Imagine how dusty. Sorry to interrupt.
no. Go ahead.
That's
Imagine
why-
how dusty his sandal feet must have
I
been.
know. That's why.
How many
I'm
tears
so-
do you need to wash
She was
those
really
dogs?
She knew. It's
I was
like
I hope-
you know
I
how
hope
when
that
you
order of sequence is correct, where you wash them first.
Yeah, those dirt grippers.
You're right.
She was-
Well, imagine though being in the presence of Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all you can do is just cry. So imagine those tears that came from her eyes, because everyone else, they consider her a sinner. They wouldn't go near her, yet he is letting her wash his feet.
Which all the things he mentioned was a huge deal when it comes
Yes.
to a lack of being like a lack of hosting.
Yeah,
Where you
It
have
is.
there's
Mhm.
certain things that you do as when you're hosting.
When you live in Palestine, if you don't have water for your feet,
well, you have
they're
to
dirty
greet.
all the time.
You would greet each other with the kid. There was a lot of
yes,
ceremonial
ceremonial
things that would go on
Yeah,
that were all neglected by
for
someone
a special guest.
by someone who should know all of the rules.
who knows all of them, but neglected to do it
Right.
because it was Jesus.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, and thou gavest me no kiss, but this woman, since the time I came in, hath not ceased to kiss my feet. My head with oil didst not anoint, but this woman hath anointed my feet with ointment. Wherefore I say unto thee, her sins, which are many, are forgiven, for she loved much. But to whom little is forgiven, the same loveth little. What is that saying? Let's talk about that. Because
It's like, I don't know, maybe this is gonna turn out into like a weird, not making sense analogy. The poor widow with the 2 mites,
Mhm.
she gave
all that
she gave those 2 mites
Mhm.
because that was all she had, and
Mhm.
that was worth more than the countless amount of money or however many the rich person gave, because that wasn't even a fraction of what mattered to them. It was just
That was
it's just
when math
money
was
to give
invented.
money.
That was when math was invented. It's called the
Well,
ratio.
Well, it reminds me of that because this woman probably, I mean, alabaster. Come on,
That was a
super expensive.
expensive box of anointing oil.
And it had to be, and the ointment inside was spike there, right?
Yeah.
So that was
Expensive
as
oil,
well.
Yeah.
And she gave all of that, and I'm sure she knew what people thought of her. I'm sure she knew what her reputation was in this context, and giving up more of her reputation or her dignity to go into this Pharisee's house. She could get kicked out. They
could have kicked her out as soon as they saw her. They could have kicked her out.
And for her to go and do that and not even hesitate to go and worship Jesus because she knew that was what mattered to her.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes this such a sacrifice.
Right.
And for her to just show her adoration no matter what anyone thought. Where on the other hand, this Pharisee has invited him to dinner just to find out, I mean, I don't want to say that he was like doing surveillance, but he was definitely.
Is he cool? Is he who he says he is?
Right.
Yeah.
Is this guy legit?
Sure.
And in the Pharisee's mind, he didn't have anything to be forgiven for.
That was little.
Take there's a guy.
But to whom little is forgiven, the same loveth little.
I
haven't sinned that much, so.
I haven't sinned that much, so I don't have anything to.
So I don't have anything.
It's like you hear that, like, say in our neighborhood or something, there's a guy who's like the greatest of all time at chess. You wouldn't just be like, okay, if you were really interested, you'd think, I should go play him. I should see. Is he really as good as people say he is? Because if he's going, like he's right here. Is he really that good? In a way, but it's considering that people were talking about him doing miracles, it's a bit bigger than just playing chess. So you'd want to talk to
you would want to be there.
Will he do a miracle for me? Will he? Is this guy really legit? And I think I don't think he found what he wanted because he probably was angry. Considering
he got called out.
Simon
got called out.
And probably somebody had to have seen the lady going into his house and probably, his face, she's like, why's she going in there? And just things like that. And he was thinking that. Not that
exactly. She had put herself in danger.
Yes, she did.
And he felt like he was in danger because he was in a high position in the religious
I can't have seen with this woman.
Right.
Well, she came into my house, right? She's in my house.
But he didn't do anything.
And she's doing something in, I wouldn't say, maybe not a romantic way, but like the kissing of the feet.
In an affectionate way.
Yeah, in an affectionate way. With which
that.
Previous experiences, he was probably like, oh, how much did he pay or whatever? It just, you didn't know at the time. Yeah, you had no idea. No idea.
So Jesus compared this to two.
The crying is a little bit weird though.
Well, maybe not.
No, I just mean in his mind.
In Simon's mind.
In
Simon's mind, yes.
Was a customer, he's like, why is she crying?
Yeah. In Simon's mind, yes. The whole setup was probably weird. Well, he compared them to two debtors. He did that because of course it's a parable. He needed to put it he needed to explain it to them in a way that they would understand it. So two debtors, one owed more than the other one did. One owed, 500 pence, and the other one only owed 50 pence. Oh, I'm right here. I had to turn my page. One only owed 50 pence. And so when Simon answered, he said, suppose that he to whom he forgave most. That was my thing too when I was reading that. I was like, most? It said he just forgave both of them. He gave both debts. It didn't say who he forgave most. The one that had 500 pence, he had a lot of debt, a lot to be forgiven for. And the one that had 50 pence, he didn't. But it didn't say, he forgave the one with 500 pence more than he forgave the one that had 50 pence. No, he didn't. That's not what it was saying. It said that, and it said, and when they had nothing to pay, he frankly forgave them both.
Which it also depends which one would love them most based on how much that was too. I mean, there's a lot of different.
Well, and then you would think the one that has the one that
Sure,
gave,
it could have been Elon
500
Musk with
pence.
the 500 pence, and then so, you know, the widow with 2 mites who had 50. You know, it's a bit different. You know, it depends on the context, but overall, you know, just in
well, neither one of them
not
can
knowing
pay.
anything
Right.
else.
Right, I would say, well, neither one of them can pay.
That's
But
true.
then when Jesus talked about it some more, it made more sense because the Pharisees, they pretty much had everything. The Pharisees pretty much had everything.
Mhm.
But we see that even in the midst of the Pharisees having everything, Jesus still forgave them, no matter how big their sin was.
Right.
Just like he forgave the woman of her sins that she had, that he knew about.
Mhm.
And so with Jesus, you can be a big sinner or you can be a little sinner. But he still will forgive you of your sins. And we need to know that we are not higher ranked than anyone else. Because in Jesus' eyes, we're all the same. And so that's when it comes to this lady who anointed him, kissed him, cried before him, this is what Jesus was saying. That, yes, she has all these things. And yes, I'm still going to forgive her. No matter what y'all think of her, no matter who she is, she's worth it. And in the eyes of Jesus, everyone is worth it. No matter what your sins are. You're worth it. He died on the cross because we are worth dying for. And so when we think about it today, know that there are people that don't think they are worth it. And they may have committed more sins than you have. But in the eyes of Jesus, we're worth it all. We're worth every single bit of it. And so go about your day today and know that you're worth it to Jesus. And to the ones that are following Jesus and us as a whole, know that you're worth it to us also. So have a great day, and we hope that you join us in our Sunday morning worship service.